Good evening, friends. I'm Saket, and I welcome you all to our sixth episode of Hangout series. And today we have Jerry with us, and we are going to talk about topics related to Agile coaching. Before we go further, why don't Jerry you introduce yourself and we start our conversation from there?
Okay, thanks, Sagat. I'm in Bangalore and I work as an agile coach, and currently I work with Visa. So that's a very quick introduction. Uh-huh. Maybe we'll start our discussion probably.
So Jerry is like a very old timer agile coach, as much I know. He's certified enterprise coach for how many years?
It's now 4 years now,
Yeah, 4 years
2013. Yeah.
now, and he's also the professional coach through ICF. So he's PCC, and recently he has also developed an interest in IC Agile. So he has done IC Agile programs also, and that's what I know about Jerry. Okay, great. So let's get started. Now, you might be seeing the trend in our country that many of the agile aspirant, agile scrum masters are thinking of becoming agile coach. And somehow we find that designation agile coach is becoming quite catchy. Now, before we get into the details, when somebody says agile coach, in your opinion, what is agile coach? Who is he? Like what he does?
Okay. So when I meet people and when they say they work as an agile coach, there are different people have a different perspective. So before I go on my interpretation of an agile coach, many time I see people um, mix, I can say, just only giving training or back, I think few years back from 2008 or 9, when I used to go and introduce, that's the first time 2008 I joined as an agile coach. When I say I'm an agile coach, people usually say, oh, you're here to give training. So that's the first thing people think about as an agile coach, and that is to an extent kind of I can say the same feeling. Many people think a coach is prominently involved in training, and so there are a lot of different flavors. That's how I look at this. People start as you really look at the reason my learning from IC Agile, which is based on Agile Coaching Institute. As an Agile coach, you wear multiple hats: training, and then you move to mentoring, consulting. People look at as a subject matter expert. You just go fix the problem and come back. So the coach, Agile coach, in my opinion, is a very broad term. I will not even use that word, but as you rightly said, it's a very catchy title. And we have a lot of flavors. We have enterprise agile coach. I happen to see a senior enterprise agile coach in Bangalore. There are quite a few. So I never met them, so I'm really interested to learn what they do. But for me, only thing I'm very clear is it doesn't matter what you call yourself, because for me a scrum master is an amazing coach. Somehow a notion of a scrum master is a low level and then a agile coach is a next level. This kind of hierarchy getting created, which I prefer not to be, because that's not what the intention of having this. So when I talk to somebody, when they introduce I'm an agile coach, I really okay, what are the roles and responsibility and to what level of influence they try to work. That's the more important thing for me.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is that in your initial interaction with Agile Coach, you were finding many Agile Coach are primarily getting involved in training, and now you also find that the industry is kind of maturing, and they are realizing that Agile Coach is not only the trainer. Maybe initially he do lots of training, but he also plays a role of a mentor. He also plays a role of a consultant, and maybe if sometime he gets an opportunity, he also do coaching. So a role of coach is might be a combination of all.
All
What I'm hearing is that when people say they are working as an agile coach, then you try to ask them what they do rather than just go with the title. So you really understand what they actually fall in these segment. Yeah. So in your opinion, why organizations are hiring agile coaches nowadays? You see a good demand of agile coaching in many organizations.
So if I look at from an organization perspective, again from my own experience, predominantly in Bangalore, but I can kind of generalize to an Indian context. There could be a little bit of a misunderstanding. Many times people put agile coach slash manager role, but it is kind of now getting clear from the hiring perspective. But why organizations are trying to hire agile coach is uh, organizations are there on a, I can use a word, a traditional or a very used olden way of delivering software. And with a new change in the go-to market and all those business need, they now need to figure out a way of delivering software, and they wanted to introduce a process. Okay, that's how been the whole trigger happens. So usually they look at someone as a process champion, and they try to look at somebody who can help the team come get into the organization, starting with training. And most of the organization look at Scrum, Kanban, or a Scrumban flavor or something similar that, and how on this somebody who is going to enter the organization help and define a process. So it's kind of looked even today as a process champion. If you look at most of the agile coaches, though it's a mindset other thing, we start at the process level, defining the process. And the other reason is, if you bring someone from outside, it is good to have the neutral or a balanced opinion, third
Okay.
person perspective.
Okay. So what I'm hearing is that in your experience and observation, you find people, organizations going towards agile coaches when they want to introduce a new way of delivering things, a flavor of agile, flavor of Scrum, and they find that there should be someone who can champion the whole process, fix our previous process, and take us forward, and that creates the need of agile coaching. So after hearing your second answer, I do feel that that might be the reason where many agile coach end up doing lots of training because they get hired in that space.
Yeah. So what happened if an organization, let's say an example, decided to hire an agile coach and the person is onboarded? The first thing what we try to do is, you go talk to the team, try to understand, and try to start the initial, what can I use the word, common language. Everybody should speak the common language. That's where the coaches get into mode. For example, everybody want to talk about a pre-planning meeting, just as an example. Then everybody should know in the organization what does that mean and how that is going to be taken care. Maybe we have some internal expert already, because organizations have employees from different other companies working, joining. So in that case, bringing them together, agreeing on a common ground, that's the starting point. So, and again, I look at the agile coaches at two level. For example, if you look at the SAFe or LS or DAD, so there is like a expert coming from that framework, like SPC or a LS certified practitioner. So their expertise on that particular thing, they come to the organization, they come with a predefined solution and they try to implement that. And other people, like different people, they come look at the organization, study, and create their own homegrown. They play, mix and match, they figure out what works.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is that many time agile coaches also coming from a framework background, and they get hired because the organization want to pick up a particular framework. And sometimes they just want to have a process champion. They pick up the guy, and in the process, person facilitates which particular framework they should go forward. What is your opinion about the whole process of moving from traditional way of doing things to a agile way of doing things? See, if I want to change my process, say I don't want to do a sequential approach and I want to reduce my time to delivery, and if I just end up hiring one agile coach or two agile coach or three agile coach, uh, uh, in your opinion, is it a right approach? If it is right, then who takes care of the big picture of change? Because it's just not a one less implementation. So how do you see organization handling the big picture of change and getting a coach and getting him in started?
Um, in a short answer, I can say it is still a struggling. Most of the organization, that's where they fail. Um, so there are two parts to that. One is one organization get into the same bandwidth. Oh, my competitor is doing, so I have to do that. It's like a peer pressure. We use the word in the industry. One bank adopted something, every bank tried to jump into that bandwagon. And some organization, as you rightly said, I can still use maybe the traditional waterfall or whatever delivery model, but the feedback is pretty long. And with the today way of the change dynamics in the market, we need a fast and a iterative and incremental model, and that's where the whole agile scrum come into picture. By that practice, and when you try to bring in, then some organization, for example, my experience always with a big bang approach. But what we focus is we start with one business line, or maximum a part of a business line within a bigger portfolio. Uh, because when an organization decided to go in this new way of working software, we cannot stop your pre-commitment. You have committed something to be delivered to the client, and you have to respect that, and also the change in the way of working. So it's like a double edged sword. You need to figure out as an organization to what extent and how critical the change in the process and the delivery matters. So that is something, and most of the time, the agile coach who enter the organization, if just look at only the process and ignoring the business outcome or a business output, whatever you want to use, then you will see a issue in that. I am exceptionally doing a wonderful Scrum team, but I'm not even releasing my product or incremental product. Last 6 months, all our Scrum things are good, but nothing is out of the organization, then it's become a lot more risk. So you as an organization, you need to figure out and match
Okay, so what
these
I'm
two.
yeah, what I'm hearing is that some of the organizations are going for agile way of doing things without thinking much about it, just because of peer pressure they are jumping. But the others who have a plan in mind, who want to become more adaptive to the market, and they take it forward with a goal driven approach. But you also see in those organizations, in your experience also, many times the agile coaches don't get a exposure of looking the big picture. They end up just working with the development process fixing. They may end up introducing scrum, but overall the idea may not get the agility may not achieve. But many times, in your experience, how influence an agile coach can make an overall organization? Because in a whole organization, they may hire 5 coaches. Now, these 5 coaches may be given some areas, and they are just doing it. Uh, how do you see that these guys can influence organization to do a big thinking, and who owns that whole the big picture of towards agility?
Okay, so I'll make it in a very little different way. So I how I look at is the whole strategy of agile transformation. That's a buzzword, right? Uh, at a HR level or at the mothership or the decision making level is very different from an agile transformation with an execution level. And my life I spend always in Bangalore, where the execution comes, the delivery comes. So the strategy is very much aligned with the delivery focus. That's very unfortunate, but that's a reality. The bigger the organization, your parent organization decides something without sometimes the acceptance from the middle management, and the execution comes back with a strategy where we start working. I just can't even influence. There are a lot of things get into between your strategy and the execution in terms of the people, no buy-in, and all those stuff. And it's again the reverse. At the execution level, we wanted to try something, but there is no buy-in at the top level. Again, it's going to create a thing. Very luckily, some organization, for example, sometime back, one of the product line where I worked, the decision making and the team sits in the Bangalore office, and it was a wish or a kind of a dream for the head of the product line, where he wanted to introduce Scrum. He knew about Scrum because he seen in the past success about that, and it used to be a 9 month delivery cycle. So we introduced around 120, yeah, 120 to 140 people business unit. So we started with 5 teams of around 35 people, and then we slowly expanded it. So that's something very different learning experience, because any problem we just walk into his room, ask for his help, and as long as the person is convinced. And usually the thing is, when the strategy sits in US or Europe and the execution in India, seeing what's happening, go and see and all those, it's more difficult because they need to travel or some other means of communication. So for me, you need to figure out two way of strategy, and this is the kind of an organization we work with.
Okay, okay. So what I'm hearing is that there could be a situation where the coach becomes kind of lucky enough to influence the middle management and the higher management, so that alignment can happen and overall agility can be achieved. But many times the coach may not have that much influence, and coach may primarily focus on how do I make these 130 people start using Scrum. They are using waterfall. How do I make them using Scrum? How do I help them to create backlog, user stories, write user stories, and somehow they end up finishing their sprint.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. So now we move forward in general. Like if I take the core Scrum values and all, if I am assuming that that CEO comes and says in Scrum we expect teams to do everything, they are expected to be self-organized, then why do we need someone coach to coach them, especially after doing the training? Okay, we have got them trained. So
Yeah,
there was a team, we got them trained, and they are expected to self-organize. There is a Scrum Master. Why do I need a coach? And I just want to add one more thing. Incidentally, I was giving our ICGL training and all. So and one of the person asked, the service organization person asked, how do we make the coach billable? Like, how do we sell a coach to a client that he understand? Okay, I need a coach now. Team is not the agile team is not sufficient. So that was a funny
yeah,
part of it. I was also surprised to get this answer because initially I could not even understand the question. But later on I understood the question. But idea is why should somebody pay the coach? Team should do everything.
yeah. Okay, the service organization experience, I don't have much, and I really struggle to get a buy-in when we make very small time discussion with my friends in service organization. Because when you come to an organization which is into service mode, you are serving someone to deliver what they expected. So obviously, some organization look at an agile coach or a scrum master value, but they say, okay, you move from a manager to a scrum master so that you can be billable. So it's a different kind of a ball game to make someone billable, which is very tricky and very challenging. But stepping back to a product or a captive kind of a market or a setup, when I can say an agile coach, I usually ask them, do you really need an agile coach? I think it's good to start with an why. Why do you need a PMO? Why do you need an okay, agile PMO now it's called? Yeah, why do you need it? Because it's a and again, there's a one reason many organizations eventually have coaches, because there's a central business budget which is spent on that. And it is usually, which is not a good practice in my experiences, agile transformation is started as a program. Okay, so it has a start date, and there are and you have to show a lot of things because there's a money spent. And it is still the challenge is organizations still consider the overall picture, agile journey as a transformation, as a project. So there should be a start and end date, and within that something should happen. And that is where we get into the outcome versus output. How many teams running daily stand up effectively, how many teams doing retrospective, whether they're effective or not is the second part, and all those. And we need someone to start with training. So as a coach, somebody is bought in, and the training is over. What I mean to them is, now you understood what is a daily stand up means or a daily scrum meaning. How to do that in the ground reality. People may be experienced, people may not be experienced. And we talk about agile as a mindset, right? So if I wanted to reach a mindset related to the behavior related to the thinking, and the action is nothing but my thought process. So if I wanted to do something, I can either come with an agile mindset, which is which is pretty difficult because we are so used to the traditional way of working. So I start the reverse way. I try to do exhibit an action like right way of a stand-up meeting. Instead of giving status, form a circle and do that. So it's a reverse of, if I do the practice in the right way, that become my new attitude, new behavior, so that maybe some point in time. So I usually believe that Suhari industry has got its own view, but it's a good start at the shoe level. Try, then go to ha, then we are you detach and do whatever you want. Sure, don't
Okay.
get into
So what
and
I'm
you
hearing, yeah, yeah,
yeah,
what I'm
go ahead.
hearing from your answer is that two types of agile coaches engagement you see. One is more focused on agile transformation, which is having start date and end date, and in that process, the agile coach do training, mentoring, consulting, and a little bit of coaching towards the
Love
end.
that.
The transformation goes, they are out. So that's the one type value agile coaches at it, because they champion the process. That is the word you have been using. The another you were talking about, maybe they get attached to an agile PMO, so a captive organization maintain the project management office or a delivery office where the mentors and coaches get attached to, and then they keep facilitating various improvement actions throughout the organization. Am I getting it right? Is this something
Yeah,
you
that's true. The other thing is maybe because organization also believe instead of bringing someone within the organization, they're part of the problem. You try to bring them up from an outside person as an agile coach, maybe a full time or a consultant. You get a different perspective, and that person is not the problem. Sorry, yeah, the problem statement. So maybe you have a different thought process to break the monotonous way of things happening earlier. So that
Okay.
could be one of the reason.
So again, a controversial question, maybe. When we started the Scrum journey, we expected that the development team will do everything. In
Yeah.
perfect world, we just need a development team member. Ideally, we should not need even Scrum Master also. A development team member and product owner should be able to do self-organizing team. And in many organization, people don't find even Scrum Master adding value. They find they better we give something else to him, because teams are expected to self-organize. And then we talk of agile coach on top of it. So I sometimes find that the old culture of management may be coming back with a different name. So we expected to have more and more developers, but managers were there. We made them scrum masters sometimes, and there were more managers. So we made them agile coaches. So somehow the whole guiding mindset remains, and the focus from self-organizing may goes away. So it's just a controversial thought process. What is your view on this?
Yeah, so if you really go back to the history of the self-managing teams, this was never. It was actually, I can say, come from a company. I forgot the other name. I have this book. It was 1974. Sometimes in one of the European site, it evolved. It was a 25 year of study, amazing read, which is out of software, and that's great. And as usual, if you look at the Scrum guide, it just say a line Scrum. Now the called the development team is managing and organizing. So you cannot throw a baby, a 10-month or a 1 year baby into a well. Okay, now you jump and figure out. This is not possible. So you need the hand holding. That's why we have the mentoring part. You need the teaching. Then comes the coaching to make the team a hyper productive team or a high performing team. It's a journey. That's why we try to bring in journey as a word, not as a project start and end date. We say agile is a journey where the team goes through different stages. But there's other stage we all know, right? So there are
Yeah.
multiple things happen within the team, and the other thing is you need to also understand that the we are not in a world, at least in an Indian scenario, where the teams are intact for many years. I was fortunate to work with one of the European company where the team was together for 10 years. And they never used Scrum or Agile in their life, and whenever we say something, oh, you have been doing in a different name. That's a different world. But here we have a lot of people coming and moving out, and every 2 years we get a set of new people, new program getting added, then some of the program move to sustainable mode. So there are different There are too many things. The industry data, if you look at a team to be a self-managing organization, it takes more than 2 years when they're not touched and with a lot of support. So organizations again, this is a point again try to bring in. We more work on a delivery focused mindset. So in a delivery focused mindset, whatever you try to do, still end of the day, delivery matters. And when delivery going to an hit, everything takes a step. You need to step back, leave everything, and somehow deliver. So that's one of the trickiest part. I still try to figure out how to solve. I don't think I can solve that at all. And yeah,
So what
that's
I'm hearing
probably
is
for
that
another.
agile coach as a role is a journey role, and till the time teams are not self-organized, the person should guide and mentor and finally coach them, and then he should go away. But the challenge is that teams are not stable and the journey never finishes. So it always keep a journey in progress, and since the journey in progress, the coach is always there. Is that
Yeah,
what you are
maybe
trying to say? Yeah.
kind of yes. And the I don't think is how much time you spend with that team that might vary. Maybe you spend a lot of time initially with doing mentoring, hand holding, and all those stuff. Then maybe you may start working with another few teams. And if you have only few agile coach as a title or a designation for 100 or 200 people, I think I recently hearing in another metrics that one agile coach for 100 that number come into picture. So this is again getting into that. I think few years back, one story point is equal to X hours argument. So I think we are trying to go back to the same old behavior with the new wordings. It's a
Yeah,
tricky
that
thing.
is what I am, my fear was. So it is again becoming like head tail ratio, manager developer ratio, or a PMO project ratio, and rather than the other name, sometimes the agile coaching words comes in. But looking at the need of organizations moving to a better way of managing their work, I think in the near future the role of coach is still valid. Yeah. So, what do you think can help someone, or who should aspire to become an agile coach? Now, many times I get people, they ask me, should I get into agile coaching? So, if somebody comes to you and say that I am considering becoming agile coach, what advice you will give to him? Who should become and who should not?
I think everybody should welcome, or everybody should try a coach role, but with certain self check. Um, some people used to claim they're an accidental agile coach. You can't be an accidental, right? You need to have that desire. Otherwise, accidents never happen out of your wish, and you cannot want that to happen every day in your life. So one of the thing is for an agile coach, you need to let go your decision making authority. And if you're a manager, you're so possessed about taking care of your team. Be a great manager. There's nothing wrong. Somehow the whole agile industry, the coaches started blaming managers are nothing, managers are not good, kind of created a bad impression, and that's kind of triggering a lot of people to move to agile coach is a fancy new happening title place. Not necessary. You can be a great manager or a great coach. It's just a mindset. Title tomorrow, and today it's agile is just a norm. It's not anymore a fancy thing. So you can still achieve, you can still help the team. And servant leadership, if you use it, is never linked with agile. You cannot be a manager, you can still be a great servant leader. And
Mhm.
I still remember one of my great manager, she only done her CSM.
Mhm.
After that, nothing. But even today, I wanted to look upon some of the great qualities for a servant leadership. I can only recollect what she has done when she traveled to Bangalore. So
Mhm.
only thing is, as you rightly said, I think the ICA jail has brought in the bridging for an individual aspiring and coach, the basic skill set. It's like your entry level, shoe level coach, certain techniques, certain mindset, behavior thing, and that's a new learning. What you need to do is, if you want to be a coach, just sit back and think, why should I do this? If you're able to answer that why, which is convincing to you, go ahead. But when you started to go ahead, first thing is you should unlearn everything. Just unlearn whatever you learned. but never blame. That's not the goal. Just unlearn. You're an expert in 1 year plan, amazing. But now let's look at, can we make a better 2 week planning? That's all.
Mhm, mhm. So what I'm hearing is that when you make a decision towards becoming an agile coach, you need to see that are you okay to work without authority. So you end up just influencing people rather than directing them. You are no more a manager. You may be an external person. Nobody reports to you. And second, whatever learning, whatever expertise you have, they may not help you going forward. You need to start questioning your own expertise. And if you feel these things are good for you, if you find these things comfortable for you, you may try going for agile coaching. Okay. Now the second question, when people get an answer of should I become an agile coach, then the second question comes to them is what next? What will happen after I am agile coach? Where do I go next? So where the agile coach go?
Okay. So you need to understand. For me, agile coach is a role, not a title. Um, I think maybe 2008, I was given an official agile coach in my offer letter. Uh, the industry doesn't even know what is an agile coach at that point in time. But now my title is a program manager. It doesn't matter what you do inside your organization. More matters really. So what next is always, that's the one thing I loved. So avoid this hierarchy. That's the one challenge I live with. People ask me, "Oh, I've done as a Scrum Master for some time. Now I'm becoming a senior Scrum Master. I'm working with 4 teams. Now I'm an Agile Coach for a 6 team. Now I'm an Enterprise Agile Coach because I'm working with the 2 product line." That's not the intent. You can be 100% Scrum Master rather than be a 50%. There are a lot of things, facilitation skill, making the team empowered. It's a common goal between all. If just few organization can afford an extra person, who he or she only play an agile coach, looking broader, and somebody very focusing at the team level. But end of the day, as an agile coach, you work with human being. That's the fundamental reality. And as long as we work with human being, you will have learning every day, because every day you meet somebody with a different behavior, and every 3 months you go to a new team, you start from the scratch. So if you are very passionate about the hierarchy, believing that an enterprise agile coach works only at the enterprise level, then maybe this is not your cup of tea.
Mhm. So what I'm hearing is that agile coach career aspiration is coaching more and more teams, different teams, influencing people's behavior and generating more high performance team. And that's the person do all the time. It doesn't matter where. So the challenges keeps coming. Even that is so you learn from human beings. That's the idea is. But if somebody is targeting that I should be a project manager, after that program manager, after that delivery manager, and after that an account manager, and then after that something else, then that may not fit here. So you may not get that kind of a succession or a career path very defined in case of agile coaching. Am I right, or something?
Yeah.
Am I saying
So
it right?
even today, I have not seen a career path progression defined within an organization, and that's really good. If you're going to defend that, it's going to be a lot more problem. And as an agile coach, probably a few years back, I spent a lot of time at the team, then kind of learned Kanban because there was a business need. And then I learned some point in time, focusing only at the engineering organization or the IT wing, it's not going to give a end-to-end business perspective. And the last, for example, in the last, I can say 5 months, my interest is working with the HR team. I spend a lot of time agile HR. That's kind of happening, and there's again a very different learning, how Scrum work with a non-IT and how that works. So, and there are people doing beyond, right? And there are things happening at an agile at education and all those stuff. So it's always you can find something which is inspiring and learning for.
Okay, okay. So we started our conversation where we spoke about what is agile coaching and what kind of a role agile coach plays, and then we got into the discussion related to how organization may get value from it, and then we got into the details of what is Agile Coach, and what is the succession plan for Agile Coach, how he move forward, and how he remain, and who should become an Agile Coach. So this is something we are done with. Now the final question, we are ending towards our closer. What kind of a skill, what kind of a learning, what kind of behavior a person should acquire in order to become an awesome Agile Coach? So if I want to become an Agile Coach, what should be the advice for you, that these are the things somebody should go through before they aspire to become Agile Coach?
Yeah, so this is something I really struggle to learn and find out. I still don't have an answer because the awesome word itself is a preconditioned one. Unfortunately, I put a lot of my professional coaching thought process into Agile coaching. Only one thing I tell people is, if you're an Agile coach, don't go with a predetermined mindset. Don't get into a room office or a meeting that, okay, I'm going to teach now and you guys better listen to me. It's just not going to work. And that's a fundamental problem many of the people does. Oh, I'm here because the first thing you need to understand, Agile is not your silver bullet, neither Scrum. It's not going to solve your problem. Ron Jeffrey, he in his mail signature, he puts this word: Agile is a lens. It's a people who does the work. So, and I think Craig Larman, I read somewhere, he says Scrum is like a mirror. It shows back how beautiful or how ugly your process or the whole thing, and it will not fix anything. So if you go and just go into the team that I am a great agile coach, I'm an awesome agile coach, so listen to me, it's not going to work. I know
Okay,
that
okay.
empathy, we use the word and all those, but the basic thing, keep those agile words outside. Just go be there, listen, and that's the most
Mhm.
first thing to start. Awesome is the not right word. Be
So
a
yes,
good
that's
person.
like a mindset thing which I'm getting, which usually I pick up that I know. So I keep telling that people should get rid of I know, because I know is something breaks your thinking process. But as you initially said that Agile Coach is also
Yeah.
doing training, mentoring, and then finally moving towards coaching. So what do you think that the person should have some skills so that he can at least train and mentor in some practices, and then with some mindset he can move forward? What is your opinion
Yeah.
about it?
Yeah, so some of the basic things, you can, if you just Google, you'll get lots of like active listening. People keep talking about being present, empathy, show compassion, and all those stuff. But how to do that? How to do an active listening or powerful questioning? There are a lot of discussion in the LinkedIn thread, but how to do that is where when a new person comes in, there where they may look for some sort of help, and that's where and you can learn. You can always learn every new skill. It is not that everybody born with all the skills. So some of the things you just Google, and there are some sort of certifying body gives you the initial thing, and start practicing. You need to remember that as an agile coach, it's also a learning journey for you, not for the team. So it's a journey together, and you should always keep yourself loyal. That's more important because they deliver, you support them to deliver. So that's what I call as a servant leadership. Coach should play a servant leader, not the other way.
Great, great, great. So that's good. Like this is what I wanted to ask in today's session. Any closing thoughts? Anything you want to say to our audience before we close the session?
Maybe I'll just end with the one thing. A lot of time when I talk to, I don't go to much of the conference or whatever. Okay, okay. But when I meet some other people, a lot of time people say, "Oh, I'm in agile world, so people, the MBO is not good. Everything is not good, which is attached to a traditional thing." But honestly, I achieved my enterprise credential from Scrum by a manager who never ever worked in Agile or Scrum. He knows what does that mean. That's all. Okay, it's just his passion which pushed me to try this. Okay, so the point I am saying is very simple. If you are in this journey, first you need to unblock your thoughts, see things in a different perspective. As long as you have that, everybody can be an Agile coach, awesome Agile coach, maybe.
Okay, great, great, great. Since you remind about the conference, I missed mentioning that. So we this Hangout series is primarily done for promoting and talking about that regional Scrum gathering. the conference which we are having in September on 6th and 7th July. So our audience can enroll to the program, and till 15th, 6th and 7th September, not July, until 15th July, we are also running some 15% discount code. So if you want to do it fast, do it soon, and we will get a lot of interaction from various agile practitioners during that session. Thank you, Jerry. It was nice talking to you, and I got an interesting perspective on agile coaching, and it's always pleasure talking to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Bye.